Content over everything!
This is all I've been waiting for my whole life. I just wanted to say that Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of the greatest games of all time. Hideo Kojima contributed massively to the PlayStation 2 era of console gaming. And
did you ever play Zone of the Enders?
I did, as the first-person shooter, right? No, it wasn't. It was Time Crisis. It was Time Crisis. I'm sorry.
Zone of the Enders.
I confused them. I confused the two.
I believe the only non-Metal Gear Solid game that Hideo Kojima developed for PS2.
Really?
Zone of Enders. Yeah.
Really?
Zone of Enders. It's like a Gundam sort of thing. You like anime?
I do like anime.
Like mech suit.
Yeah, I've not been a fan of the mecha anime genre. I think it's too obtuse, and I think that's conceptualized itself perfectly in Neon Genesis Evangelion, where it becomes so convoluted. It is of no value or bearing to anyone.
Right. Okay. So you haven't played Zone of Enders. Did you ever play Police Notes?
Yeah, I did play. So these are
there's a poster of it in Otacon's office.
Yeah, these are Konami classics, I think.
Also by Hideo Kojima.
Also by Hideo Kojima. I think there's also Parasite Eve as well.
Yeah, I don't think he had anything to do with it.
I don't think he had anything, but it falls under the same genre. Another Konami special was Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
Netflix recently produced the anime series on them. Really good. It's good that they've brought American, yeah. Or I think it's an American production studio, and they've used English voice actors. But it's clear that they've lifted a lot from the history of the games.
Sure.
So I think it's really good. It's good that Netflix has branched out as a format and taken on production, the process of producing shows as well. So they're not necessarily bound by the 1 hour slots that HBO or cable network television is. So what it means is not everything has to end on a cliffhanger. So I think that's allowed us to take the advantage of storytelling.
And here is very valued defense of
I don't think it's recording.
It's what you call vertical integration in capitalism, where a brand owns every aspect of production, distribution,
advertisement.
And he praises it somehow.
I do. I'm a big believer in it.
It's really good that Netflix is dominating the market. Yeah.
It's done wonders for the quality of television. It's forced people to step up their game. Game of Thrones, HBO is a fantastic example of that.
Is it?
Yeah, I think
Isn't it just emulating cinema? I mean, what is it really doing new? I mean, just because TV shows are now the same length as films doesn't mean they're necessarily any better. I mean, films have been doing this for 100 years.
I think what the beauty of a TV series is that a film is that you're not bound by the 120 to 180 minute time limit. So it's not as if everything you have to have a beginning, a middle, and end, a cliffhanger, a sequel. You can go through complex storylines at several points in time.
Right.
You can
develop characters.
Exactly.
Right.
And to have a vested interest.
So why don't you watch EastEnders?
Because I can't identify with it. I feel
you
close.
Can identify with
if I ride a dragon, that's something that I feel more in touch with.
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, look, you're right. TV is an interesting medium where it can continue themes longer than film can.
Yeah.
But so what?
I think that adds to storytelling.
Is it that deep?
I mean, what separates, something like the 1001 Nights from Ernest Hemingway, who wrote the shortest story of all time, Baby Shoes for Sale, Never Used.
Wow, is that
right. That's the shortest story of all time. It's not a book, but I think it was
Ernest Hemingway does.
Yeah, he was someone who emphasized brevity in language. So when you read his stories, it's definitely minimalist in the way that it's put across. Simple sentence structures. George Orwell pushed that as one of his methods of writing as well. Don't use a long word where you can use a short word as well. And this was a bone of contention, I believe, between Hemingway and Joyce as well.
Yeah, I think. Because I think when they it's not Clockwork Orange. Is it Train Spotting?
Anthony Burgess.
I'm trying to think of the novel. There's a novel which, when it was released, it was too long, and the publisher said, "Look, this needs to be shorter." So what he did, he removed all the he removed all the certain types of words, and the novel, became a classic.
Yeah, okay,
and it lacks so many words.
Yeah.
You get me?
I mean, editors have a thankless role in putting together a book and make it readable for the public. Sometimes there is a big disconnect between what a writer puts on paper and what the reader wants to read. So I wouldn't be surprised that,
Praising that as well.
Yeah.
Praising the editors and producers
I do.
for changing the artist's work so it's more applicable to
it's true.
sales.
Marketability is so essential in art, in literature, and in film.
It's a shame.
It's a shame.
It's only a byproduct of the modern system.
But there is a fine line between doing something for the sake of art to the point where you enjoy it so much and saying that it should be put forward in its unadulterated form. Yoko Ono and John Lennon, I think, they produced an album which was just animal noises and them whispering. And people bought it.
Because he was famous, as it was.
Exactly. So this is an example of an artist taking complete creative control of the work they want to produce. And it comes up, to be honest, only of value to them.
That's a terrible example, because that just doesn't happen often. There's so many examples where artists have done I shouldn't even have to prove it.
What about Michael Bay? Michael Bay is a fantastic example of someone who takes...
Angelo for his artworks. I love Michael Bay's artworks. No, because
so
does by a million people.
Does that mean groups of musicians have less value for their contribution than solo artists?
100%.
I don't think so.
Because it's just how it is, bro. Look, I guess a band is a conducive unit. But even then, in the modern music industry, there's 100 engineers, 100 producers. There's no one real artist, man. I mean, art, you can't just... When you use the term art so pervasively, everything and nothing becomes art.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think...
People are like, the way the grass is cut is art.
No, okay. True, there are some
high standards.
There are some obtuse claims that people make, but equally, I don't think we can go down the route of an exercise in obtuse and obstinate singular workmanship. Kentaro Miura has done one of the most longest and well-established mangas for anyone who reads manga or watches anime, called Berserk. And he hand draws every single panel. And one of the characters, it requires an absurd amount of effort. It has halted the production of that series. Why? Because he spends so long on something that could be relegated to someone else. Whereas you have people like Akira Toriyama, who did Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT. And he was fantastic because he was called the master of the shortcut. When he didn't want to draw something that was complex, he would do something to phase that image out and move with it. So he wouldn't allow the production of the art to get in the way of the story. And I think that's why it's so important that we have teams who bounce off ideas off of each other and ensure that when a story has to go through, nothing needless gets in the way.
Right, okay, so this guy, he draws a frame of the comic. Now that frame in itself can be considered an art piece.
It could be.
But the comic as a whole, doesn't necessarily make an art piece, it's a comic.
Fair enough.
That's why literature isn't referred to as art. Literature is a narrative experience that you have to actively
interpret.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Art is, it's supposed to be, historically, art has been used to describe profound, almost like ethereal, sublime works of art. We just think anything with beauty or anything with any value is art. And I don't even know what art is.
Me neither.
You think about it, because I've gone to big galleries on Earth, man, and I've seen some of the most legendary pictures, and I'm like...
Yeah, but I feel like...
So maybe art is only for, like, the artists.
Yo, hey, excuse me. Joker, come. 1 second, come in, blood.
This guy's a joker.
That was Batman.
Joker.
Yeah, that's it.
Another great piece of art, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy.
Wouldn't go that far.
Debatable.
Wouldn't go that far at all.
Debatable.
I think, the suit he wears, that's a cool piece of art.
Oh, as in from the perspective of like makeup and design and aesthetic.
I mean,
I thought Jack Nicholson did a better job in... Jack Nicholson, sorry.
I think that he's a much better Joker. I mean, that's a real Joker.
Yeah.
What's the conversation about again?
Film, art, literature. We're bouncing off topics. You're more than welcome to join in.
I'm not.
She's going to leave when he finds out it's not about religion.
No, I'm not about that. I'm not deep into religious stuff.
Yeah.
I'll talk about politics, society, problems, solutions.
do you feel that there are any films which fairly represent your culture or your identity?
So much.
Which
Captain
films?
Phillips, for
Captain
example.
Phillips is a good example. Okay. How so?
Nah, basically they don't represent my culture. They
No, as in what's a interesting and a fair representation of the
fair
complexity
representation you
and
said.
nuances of
I
your
thought you said
traditions.
I thought you said the opposite. But
I didn't, but okay.
yeah, that's what I thought. That's
Yeah.
what I thought. Yeah, a film that represents my culture.
Or you feel that there's a depiction which you feel a sense of pride in how accurate it captures. Because sometimes we can capture the bad as well as the good in things that are close to us. So it could be either.
There isn't.
That's deep.
There isn't.
And that's a very important thing to remember, because some cultures have a lot more representation in media.
That's true.
Everyone knows how the Americans live because they put on screen. We know how African Americans live because it's on screen and music. If you go Bollywood, obviously it's not real.
Some nations are what I would call culturally dense. They punch above their weight. In population or size, they might be small, but in terms of projecting soft power, they are very, very, very well known across the world. Like K-pop is a great example. Korean pop music is taking the world by storm right now. BTS, G-Dragon, all these bands. I can't speak Korean, can you? But you have young 13, 14-year-old British American girls, who are absolutely eating this stuff up. So,
Yeah, but I tell you what, it's all about. It's not the music they like.
Okay.
It's the colours and the different effects that the music portrays. Yeah.
Bro, I think
Korean music is very well famous for.
J-pop, K-pop, anything from even anime, bro.
Yeah, no,
I think
no,
if you like, I'm not trying to target, man.
When it comes to
Don't-
anime, like
don't
the art is just whoa.
Yeah.
You think like, rah, how did they even design this? Like,
Yeah, no,
you
it's
get what I
true.
mean? It's so. I've watched. I'm not an anime guy,
Yeah,
but
me
I
neither.
like to watch it once in a while. But when I do, I like to pick mine, like, you know what I mean. But the ones that I watch, they just fascinate me. Like one of them is like the girl who walked through time or something like that.
Paprika?
No, the girl that leaps through time.
Spirited Away?
No,
The girl who leaps, is that what it's
that's
called?
the name of
girl
it.
who leaps?
Oh, is that what it's called?
yeah,
Okay.
the girl that leaps through time.
I was going to say that I think some
Or Journey to Argatha. That's another one.
You know
Journey
some.
that's
You know more than a
are
fan.
these Studio Ghibli?
No, I don't watch this shit.
Okay.
But I choose them.
Sounds like you do. But
No, Allah,
I haven't heard it, so I thought I'll watch it.
those are the only two I know, and they fascinate me.
I was just going to say, I think sometimes we don't give enough credit to foreign films and foreign cinema and how much it influences Hollywood as well. There's a great director called Akira Kurosawa. He did a famous film called The Seven Samurais, I think. And some of the camera angles which he used, the way in which you have anti-heroes, which they're not necessarily good people, but they're okay with them being the protagonist and following their journey through. And I think Hollywood didn't pick up on that for the longest time. I think you had James Dean in Rebel Without a Pulse as one of the,
Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause, yeah, Rebel. My bad. I was thinking of the PS2 game. But yeah, so foreign cinema is something that people should appreciate and watch more. I don't think we should be discouraged by
I
the
agree,
language
but
barrier.
I have to break that a little bit.
Okay.
Kurosawa was completely influenced by Hollywood when he made Seven Samurai.
Yeah, I think it's a reciprocal relationship. We can
Somehow.
give and take.
But the truth is, Hollywood, first of all, Hollywood made the narrative film. Film wasn't always about telling stories. Film was about, originally documentary, was about filming naked women. That's what it was about. Like, that's what people really wanted to see when moving images were first created. Then America was like, I know, why don't we put these bits of clips together and make a story? America pioneered it mostly, and then in the 30s and 40s they really done the business. Good stories in 90 minutes, and the world followed.
Okay,
Even though Kurosawa does implement that Japanese style, there's no doubt about it.
I think, as in just to build on that, I do believe it's a reciprocal process. They give and take.
For sure.
And
It's still Japanese.
Yeah, I mean,
it borrows from Hollywood.
It was I can't remember the name of the guy who was the actor who we used. What was his name?
The guy who uses in all his films.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name was.
He's a cool guy.
Something Mike, I think. But yeah, he was also in a film called Hell on the Pacific, which was a Hollywood film as well, on which a US soldier and a Japanese soldier are stranded on a South Pacific island, and they're forced to work together. And there you see, it's an obscure film, but you see the melding of Japanese cinema and Western cinema in the way that the characters act. So you have the stoic detached, professional Japanese, and you have the more emotive, loud braggadocio of the American soldier as well. And it was a nice blend. I think it came out in the late 60s.
Well, you know, coming back to, is there a film that represents my nation?
130.
That's cool. Is there a film? I know. Is there a film that represents my nation?
Yeah.
I would say there's barely a film that represents Africa in its real origin.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time they depict Africa, they ever depict it as droughts, wars, savage people, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So all the negative
So
stereotypes.
exactly. So they don't talk about when they're making movies. They don't make movies about the Noks, the Nok Empire, or the Bunt Empire, or sorry, the Bunt kingdoms of Buntland of the Egyptians. They don't talk about the Nubians.
Or the Songhai dynasty.
Black Panther
That's a sort of a new
Is
step.
that Afrofuturism? That's
It's
the
not
genre,
even
right?
Africa, really.
Yeah, it's Afrofuturism. Is that what it's called?
I've never seen it.
That's the term I've heard.
Black Panther, I don't know what to say about Black Panther because at the end of the day, I don't know. It's just fantasy. Yeah, it's not reality. But if for example there was no, I mean there are rare black heroes in the comic world.
I mean, I think this is where Marvel really, led the way. Stan Lee was, famously anti-racist, and he put a lot of, characters that would have been relegated to the sidelines. I think who's the most famous black superhero in the comics? I think it was Luke Cage, was it? In the 70s, he was a famous one.
Oh wow!
But and he was famous because he bucked the trend of what they were called blaxploitation films. So there was a lot of depth and development of the character. Definitely as the years went on, it definitely did a lot because there were, I think most recently we have Miss Marvel, who's a Kamala Khan, a Pakistani American in Marvel Comics as well. So I think art is always a good precursor towards changing attitudes by initiative as well. So perhaps maybe in the future you might be the filmmaker representing your nation, your people, your
Me, I've already designed a comic.
You should shout
comic
out.
structure. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to
Okay,
make it a
don't do
surprise
that.
because I'm still working on it. But I've done the first picture. I've done it in 2015. But now I've bettered my art. So I'm working on a proper structure.
Best of luck for that, man.
Yeah, so once I finish this proper structure, I'm trying to get, like, if there are some Somali people out there who know how to do, art or filming and stuff, maybe we can, or maybe writing.
Are there any? So you said you made a comic strip of your own, or?
Nah, I've designed the comic figure, but I haven't made out of a.
Okay.
Yeah, but the comic figure's there.
Okay, cool.
So I've got the story, everything in my mind, but I'm not a good writer.
Do you take any inspiration from any comic book artists or writers?
Do I take any? No, not really. It's just.
Have you heard of Robert Kirkland?
No.
He did The Walking Dead, if you've seen the TV series.
Okay.
So that's based off a comic. He's quite good. Alan Moore? Or is it Alan Clark? Alan Moore.
No.
The comic book artist, Alan Moore. He's quite good.
It's just that my idea is to create a comic structure that's inspired by Somali stories.
Okay.
Instead of other comics, because if you have a comic story inspired by other Somali stories, then what happens is that you have something unique. And the Somali people, if that was to be put into a book, the Somali youth will be easily they would relate to it.
Okay, that's good.
And the guy who's writing is not a white man or different ethnicity or black man. It's a Somali guy who's writing about it, and they'll be like, cool.
Okay.
Tear sauce, you get me? So that's one of my aims. But also, I'm not a good writer, but I'm willing to collaborate with anyone who's good at writing stuff.
You rap, innit?
I do.
So what do you think about that Somalian rappers? Because there's a few now. Because you've got K9. K9's
there's a lot. There's not just K9. There's a lot.
No, but K9's big. Because he collabed with Nas.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, K9.
I know there's a few, yeah.
Yeah, K9 is a big guy, yeah. But, yeah.
Tell me more.
I think this is all I can offer. I don't have much in the way of music, but it was good speaking to you, bro.
Man's gonna tell me that over there. Sorry, bro. Share. Sharing is caring, yeah?
What's that?
I think it's dark in here, man. It's a bit, yeah, there you go.
Basically, I'm
Rejected handshake.
just nick the light from the others, yeah? You see, man, yeah?
I think that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah.
Are we?
Sorry. Yeah, I'll put the light back on.
No,
So basically,
yes.
I advise everyone out there who's single to run and marry your cousin.
You get me? But I don't know. There's a lot of them out there, but I don't know. I don't know them by names. There's a lot of them because I don't listen to. I'm not a hip hop guy that much. I do, but I don't listen to all sorts. I listen to every music. I don't have a specific.
No, sure.
You get me?
Go marry
That's how
your
it should
cousin.
be.
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Who do I like?
And marry your second cousin.
I like different people. Like One Republic.
And it goes out well.
One Republic.
Remember that Modine?
One Republic.
One Republic. What is
Yeah,
that?
he's
You've got
a
cousin
singer.
somewhere.
What,
Give her a
one
call.
person.
His name is one person.
Where's he
I'm gonna
from?
marry you.
I think he's British.
Because remember, she's
I
your
haven't heard
cousin.
of it. Maybe should I have known about it?
Yeah, but he's not the only guy. But there's many. I like Tupac. I like
She's your cousin. She's your blood.
I like the old
Do you
Nas.
think Tupac looks Somalian?
That's what a lot of people
Yeah,
say.
a lot of people say that.
Yeah, he's probably a long lost
I wanted to see what you
Somali.
thought about it.
Who's gonna give you this advice? Marry your cousin. No,
I don't know, but
I'm giving you this
if he had his hair,
Because I know that there's people out there who like their cousin or their second cousin.
too far.
third cousin.
but when he had his hair, he doesn't look so much.
It's okay. It's halal.
He
It's
had
halal
it.
to
Yeah,
marry.
yeah,
It doesn't.
You understand?
But without hairless, he
Yes,
looks like.
my dream.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how that works, man.
Most people said it. I thought I'd bring it up. Well, we tried to get the video and get people talking about things apart from politics and religion. It didn't work. You know, so I'm gonna. Was that? I'll try to another time.
Their money's going in there.
Yeah, say the way. Should I do a dance? Should I do a dance? Chichi man dance. The hardest thing. Gonna be right.
It's haram, it's haram.
Oh, it's haram to dance. Sorry, sir. My brother.
It's haram for music and
My brother Mackie said it's haram. Oh, it's haram to dance.
not for cheer.
Yeah, the comments, they hate us because they wish to be me, they wish to be Modine, but they can't. Unfortunately, I've saved people's lives. How many lives have you saved for you to hate me?
But the minute that we keep trying to impose our own
Right, their donations because of Modine out here.
Tell them to pay the jizya. Pay the jizya. You get me?
Listen, all of you haters, listen, let's get this clear, yeah? Let's get this clear. I love y'all them, strictly women, strictly ladies. Please, yeah, do not tell me I like a guy. It's haram.
Now you get to conduct yourself and move up the side and be a total different person. But average person doesn't know this. This is why you end up in this situation. Let's speak to you now.
Listen, man. Haters want me to go. I'm not going to go. I've got bare donations. How many lives have you changed? I've told you this, I will tell you again. I saved a person's life. An English white who was about to commit suicide. He watched Modine's video in the park and that stopped him from committing suicide. He phoned me saying, Mo, I don't know how to thank you. I told him, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he said he saved you through me. So all of you haters that are saying, Modine, we want to see this, we want to see this is boring. No. I saved the life. Whether you like it or not, tell this to your children, to your grandchildren, and to your great-grandchildren, to your parents, to your grandparents, to your aunties, to your cousins. I don't agree. Tell them Modine saved them. The man said to me, my daughter would not have had a job if it wasn't for you, Modine. my family now have because of you, Moses. He said, I don't know how to thank you. So where's the people saying thanks for speaking in Hyde Park? That's why Allah says in the Quran, and most people are ungrateful, and most people don't, and most people do not use their intellect, and most people, you get me? Always and most people are wrong. And most people hate the haqq, hate the truth. So, because I've got so many haters on here, not just on here, but I've got so many people showing me love. I love all of them. Because I've got so many haters, that just shows that I'm hateful. Because the Quran says, and most of them hate the haqq. Most people. So the truth is always going to be in the minority. Because most people hate the truth. So obviously, I know I'm winning because I got a lot of haters. So this is just evidence. No, it's camera. Oh, wicked. I'm talking to myself. No, I'm talking to camera. Brother, are you seriously think I'm talking to myself? You funny guy, man. Listen. So all of you people, listen to what I'm saying. Like, get it through. Oh, you got bare donations because of mine. Yeah, blood. Come on, G. Them ones are old, man. I ain't seen no new ones. Shut up. What, no new ones? New ones, man. Come on, it's more new ones, man. Man saving lives, fam. Man saving lives. These people's corner, fam. And haters keep hating. But let me penetrate through the haters. Let me penetrate like that.
Content over everything. Content over everything. From your belly.
Yeah. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen.
All of the books that deal with the spiritual, economic system that the Hebrews had. Why the Jews are in a high. Why were all of these books left out? The books, yeah. Many books are weariness of the flesh. We didn't need to read all the books. The conclusion of the whole matter is the fair God. But why does King listen, if there's already the oldest one, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the oldest one's already in Ethiopia, yeah, why